afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's 2:03 past the hour Eastern Daylight Time here in Virginia, just outside of DC. Very excited to speak with you today about Agentic AI Architecture for the enterprise. This is an area where we've spent a lot of our recent months and years focusing on, years really, and we have some learnings in this space, some thoughts on the space, and happy to share it with you. Not looking for this to be too much of a sales commercial, looking to focus on architectural concepts that I think you'll find are broadly applicable across the board. From an introduction perspective, my name is Dan Bagley. I run the pre-sales and solutions engineering team at Lena AI. We're an agentic AI enterprise assistant, trusted by many worldwide brands that you would know. So looking forward to spending the next about 25 minutes with you. We'll try to make this an interactive session. You can ask questions in the chat. Some of my colleagues are managing that. And if we have time at the end, we'll be able to potentially even allow some live questions. But do questions in the chat for the meantime, and we'll call them out as we have them. So for the next 25 minutes, sort of want to outline what we'll go over. We're in brief introductions right now. I'll turn it over to Adit here in a second. I want to talk a little bit about agentic AI and what does that mean in a practical company context. I think the interesting thing about agentic AI right now is everybody agrees it's important. Everyone agrees it's interesting. There's going to be a lot of investment in this space coming forward, but not a lot of people agree even what it is. So I'll at least share what I think it is and what we think it is from as it pertains to enterprise use cases. So some interesting discussion points there. Do want to talk about some of the challenges that presents then when you deploy an agentic AI solution inside of the enterprise that's new to employees. I think the generative AI curve, and you look at chat GPTs of the world and whatnot, the employees are used to that. I think understanding generative text creation is something that most employees understand at this point in time. But when you think about an AI taking action upon your behalf, that is still a new concept to employees. So we'll discuss that a little bit, and we'll talk a lot about some of the solutions to those problems. And then if there's time left at the end, we'll have a little bit of Q&A. So that's a little about me and a little bit about what we're going to be talking about here today. But now I want to turn it over to Adit Jain, our co-founder and CEO, who's joining us live from the San Francisco Bay Area today. Adit, you want to introduce yourself and maybe tell a little bit of introduction about Lena?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dan, for having me. Excited to be here. So, co-founder, CEO, look after everything non-tech. So basically all the boring stuff. And have been in this space for a very, very long while. Started with building on NER models and BERT models to today using Agentic AI across all of our customer base. Has been an incredible journey. And we got literally the front row seats to this entire evolution of AI and what it means for the enterprise. We've raised over 50 million from Bessemer, Greycroft, YC, some of the best enterprise AI investors and enterprise SaaS investors globally. What we do is pretty simple. We go in and we help reduce IT, HR, finance tickets in the enterprise. That's our core landing area. Of course, you can use us and customers use us across multiple different use cases on the screen. Coca-Cola, Shuren, Nestle, BCG, PH, some really large Fortune 500, Estee Lauder. So we have really large enterprise customers. And the reason we kind of put this call together is we've seen the journey from the first wave of chatbots, which was very like deterministic in nature, to today's agentic AI, right? And the problem is people really don't know what it is. People don't know, and there's so much hype. People get confused on what it could be for you and what it is and what it takes to actually implement and get value out of it. And that's exactly where we kind of thought of this series. This is just the first webinar in the series. We want to educate and we want to give back what we've learned. And hopefully with your questions, we'll also learn new things as well. So keep the questions coming. We'll try to handle them live with Dan and I, or we'll be able to even answer some of them in chat. But the idea is to disseminate what architecture should you be thinking of building to leverage agentic AI in the enterprise. That's the core idea behind this, and happy to answer any questions as they come along. Back to you, Dan.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Audit. So we want to start off today's session. We have a pretty large number of participants on here, so we're going to launch a quick little poll inside of the Zoom feature, and would just like to know where you stand on agentic AI architectures today. That this is something that, like I said, and Prashant, if you can just go ahead and launch that poll. There we go. Thank you for that. So yeah, if you can go ahead and vote on this poll as we go, this will help us tailor the next 20 minutes of our time. I think agentic AI architectures are something that can be very complex in nature. Even agreeing, as I mentioned earlier, on sort of what that means is a bit of a challenge. So this is something that we can spend hours and hours on, going deep into the technical weeds, and we can spend a few minutes at very high levels as well. So appreciate you participating in the poll and getting an idea of sort of where you stand from a seniority and familiarity perspective. So we'll give just another second for everyone to fill that out. We have questions and answers and chat available while we're going along, so feel free to ask those. Oh, there's the Q&A answer. Great. All right. So what is agentic AI in the context of an enterprise deployment context? And I think for me, I like to start with the term agent. And I think for most of us who have participated in sort of real estate transactions, thinking about something like a real estate agent is a good analogy for this. I assume less of us are sports or movie stars who have professional agents, unfortunately, but real estate is something that I've used an agent for. And if you think about a real estate agent, that is a professional, somebody that you trust. It's somebody that you have given a high level set of instructions to. Things that you're looking for inside of a piece of real estate or a house or an apartment or a flat, and then ask them to go out and take reasonable action on your behalf. And there's probably a set of actions that real estate agent is empowered to do completely on your behalf, such as soliciting information or setting up appointments. And then there's a set of information that real estate agent might come back to you to confirm, all right, Dan, this is something that you want to do, and then go out and execute on that behalf. So I think that's a really good analogy as we think about agents in the enterprise and AI agents taking action on your behalf. And pretty much everything that I've just described to a person, a real estate agent taking action on my behalf, can be applied to an AI agent in the enterprise. And I tend to think of agents in the enterprise having all of those pieces of context. I've given them a high level piece of instruction. They're empowered to take certain sets of action on my behalf without confirmation, and then they need to take action on my behalf with confirmation. Additionally, I think of agents in kind of three different tiers of agents, and some of this is a maturity curve question. And as we get into sort of architectures and solutions, we'll talk about that a little bit. Tier one of agents in the enterprise right now are relatively simple. It's please go do this and do this on my behalf. It's a reactive request to a command. Open up a ticket, apply for time off, reset a password. These are simple requests that instead of you going into an enterprise system and performing them for you, it's a tier one agent supporting that request for you. As I think of the second tier and second degree of complexity of AI agents, this is where an AI agent is going to leverage multiple requests simultaneously. So fetch a piece of information from here, use that piece of information to accomplish this, and maybe this. So that's three different tasks that can be conditionally operated based on source information. So that's tier two agents. And we're seeing a lot of enterprises start with tier one agents and move into these tier two agentic architectures. Tier three agentic architectures are, of course, persistent agents, which exist on a 24/7 basis, who are empowered to take action for me in a proactive manner than a reactive manner. I think that's an area that we're continuing to do a lot of work in. Our customers are very interested in, but I think most enterprise organizations are moving cautiously as they approach that persistent and ongoing agentic experience. All right, so let's move on here. This is an illustration of sort of a tier one agent. So going out there and asking for. Oh, go ahead, Adit. You wanted to chime in?
Oh no, I pressed by mistake. Please go ahead.
Oh, okay. So this is an example of a tier one agent, and sort of going into that sort of tier one and a half type view, because it's combining knowledge and action. So it's asking, what is my PTO balance? It's going out to an enterprise system such as Workday. In this case, could be SuccessFactors UKG, but it's a combination of static knowledge that exists inside of the enterprise and actions upon my behalf, and it's proactive in nature. It's responding to my requests. So in between those tiers one and two that I just described. Now, Agentic AI, to be successful, needs to be connected to all systems across the enterprise. And this is really important because an agent that can't accept action on my behalf isn't much of an agentic AI. And we think about connecting from an enterprise context, we all experience sort of bloat of enterprise systems inside of our organizations, HR, IT, technology, finance, procurement. Those disparate systems continue to be a challenge. So an agentic AI, in order to be successful, needs to be connected across all of those systems, all of those functions in order to take action on my behalf. Now, safety is really important. When you think about agentic AI inside of the enterprise, taking a fact-based approach is incredibly, incredibly important. Now, this is true both when you're thinking about knowledge retrieval and retrieving knowledge on my behalf. Go find me a document, go find me a policy, go find me an answer to a question that I might ask. So appropriate agentic AI uses multiple different sources and leverages built-in and intrinsic fact-checking layers, even to the point of using separate models from a pipeline perspective, of one model to source the answer, a second model to summarize the answer, and a third model to fact-check the answer. So those types of pipelines are really important in order to ensure a factual basis for responses across the enterprise. Now, when you think about going beyond knowledge and taking that agentic action on my behalf inside of the enterprise, permissions are really important there as well. And there's always the concern that when you're connecting an AI agent to an external system, and this could be an HR system, IT system, finance, or procurement, that agent could go beyond what a user could leverage. So it's really important that if I have an AI agent acting on my behalf in any of those systems, any of those enterprise systems, it leverages the same security model that my user applies to in those systems. So if I'm doing an HR query, it's looking at the rights that my user has in the HR system. Same for finance, same for procurement. Respecting those permissioning models is very, very critical to ensuring success from an agentic AI perspective. Now, it's really important, especially in the employee assistance cases. If you think about offering a agentic AI to your end employees and making their lives easier so they don't have to go out to an external system in order to log in, ensuring that experience is there everywhere for those employees, really, really important. When I do demos of Lena, I talk a lot about meeting employees where they are today. Now, for enterprise employees, a lot of times that's enterprise chat applications. So things like Slack, things like Teams, things like Google Chat. Those are where desk-based workers spend a lot of their productivity hours inside of those tools. So meeting them there with agentic AI solutions is very important. But it's important not to miss the distributed workforce either, thinking about doctors and nurses or factory floor workers or retail workers. For those workers, either mobile first solutions, text or WhatsApp-based solutions, or kiosk-based solutions are really important. And there's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all solution to a given organization. You need to meet all of your employees wherever that they are. So let's talk about some of the challenges. Today we see the market is highly fragmented. So you think about enterprise applications across the board, across various use cases, various technologies, all of them without fail are moving into offering AI assistance. Cross-platform use cases from those individual point solutions are extremely difficult. We see a subset of organizations who attempt to build their own and sort of take a look at best of breed large language models and iterate on them inside of their organizations. The challenge with that approach is that rapidly becomes stale. Large language models and AI technology in general are evolving at an incredibly rapid rate, and attempting to build your own, if that's not your core business, can be a real challenge. I already talked a little bit about the fragmented landscape of apps inside of the enterprise, and you can cite a study from Okta that's the average enterprise has 231 different enterprise apps, and you think about a landscape of challenges. If I'm an employee sitting there thinking about where can I go to accomplish something on my behalf is a very, very big challenge. And as we mentioned, each of these apps now has their own enterprise assistant. I've been to a number of different trade shows the past about 6 months or so here across IT and HR, and every single booth that I walk past has an enterprise solution talking about their AI assistant. You'd be remiss not to, given the landscape today. But the challenge with that is that those enterprise assistants continue to be fragmented. Now, the solution to that from each of those point solutions is to open up what they call studios. Studios are a way for a fragmented enterprise assistant to try to reach out into external systems. And most of the major players in this marketplace have launched studio products. Perhaps Microsoft and Copilot Studio is the most famous, but lots of these are coming down the pipeline. This is an attempt by these vendors to try to reach across the silos, but they're still fragmented and still grounded in those individual silos that they're in. And look, I'm a technology guy. I like technology. You catch me at the bar, I'll tell you about my home theater system, my home security system, all sorts of fun stuff. But AI for AI's sake is just technology for technology's sake, and that doesn't have a place in the enterprise because it doesn't solve the underlying challenge of a fragmented landscape. So you think about these enterprise assistants, these enterprise applications, they're fragmented. They don't talk to each other. They don't communicate. Um, Additionally, we see if you go down the build route, if you go down the studio route, that involves bringing on board a persona set, a set of individuals who are empowered to build on those platforms. And if that's not your core business, that's really a challenge. Now, frankly, so I'm in the pre-sales team, so I talk to a lot of our prospects, customers before they come on board, and almost without fail, nearly 100% of those prospects have attempted something to build it yourself, whether it was Copilot, whether it was build on ChatGPT Enterprise, something along those lines. The build it yourself is so easy because the first time each of us saw generative AI build something and answer a question, it's nothing short of magical. So, and it's very easy to start a proof of concept with something like that and say, hey, this is easy. It's super fast. It's super easy. I can build this myself. Now, the reality is that almost none of those projects, almost none of them actually see the light of day. And when I'm talking to a new prospect, I'm always happy when they're 6 or 8 months into their attempt to build it themselves because they've seen the light and they've seen the challenges that might entail. Lastly, from the build it yourself perspective, as I mentioned earlier, the landscape is rapidly evolving. You look at the speed at which this space is moving is nothing short of spectacular. And dedicated organizations are the only ones who can keep up with the space. Otherwise, you're rapidly going to find yourself deploying yesterday's technology 6 months from now. All right, so I'll share a little bit about sort of what we think the solution is. Just a couple slides. Like I said, I don't want to make this too salesy in nature, and then we'll talk a little bit more about generic AI architectures and what we think is the right approach from an AI architecture perspective. So first and foremost, in addition to meeting employees where you are, having one orchestrated AI agentic system across the entire enterprise is key. You need to send your employees only to one place. And this is really, really critical. I was talking to a prospect earlier this week, and they were telling me, oh, well, look, we started building chatbots. And we found we had a chatbot for this, we had a chatbot for this. Suddenly there are 50 chatbots inside of the organization, and no one knew how they were managed, maintained, and employees didn't know where to go. So having a single place where your employees can go to access agentic AI across your entire enterprise is incredibly, incredibly critical. Now, without that, you have a broken enterprise experience. So think about a sales rep trying to create a quote. They have to access SharePoint for a knowledge repository. They have to access Salesforce in order to generate a quote. They need to access ServiceNow in order to open up a ticket to troubleshoot a technical problem, and then email it inside of Outlook. That sort of broken workflow can take hours at a time. And when you compare that to writing a single text prompt that I would like to create a quote and send it to a person, a properly orchestrated enterprise agentic system can access all four of those systems simultaneously. And instead of taking hours or days, an enterprise workflow like this takes minutes. And that's a massive amount of time slaving when your employees have a single place to go inside of the enterprise in order to access these capabilities. All right, so let's talk about sort of a agentic AI architecture that we think is the right way to solve this. And of course, our architecture looks very similar to this, but I would encourage all of you, whether you're looking at Lena, you're looking at building it yourself, you're looking at Copilot for all I care. These are important tenets to use when you're evaluating an agentic AI solution. So high level perspective, and then we'll break into these individual components. Let me turn on my little laser pointer here. So we'll talk about touch points here, sort of where your employees access it. We'll talk about orchestration, sort of how the core orchestrator can break down individual requests. We'll talk about agents, that agents have skills and agents have memory. And we'll talk about integrations and how those agents can take action on my behalf. And then we'll talk about the supporting capabilities of how those individual agents are built. So I spoke earlier about saying we need to meet your employees where they are today. So touch points are really that. So enterprise chat applications for desk-based workers, voice and video is rapidly becoming a standard in this space. I talked to a technology leader yesterday who was sharing with me that most of their IT tickets still come in via voice. They're still operating a call center. They're proud that they answer the calls to that call center in seconds and not in minutes. But that's an expensive prospect. So enabling voice for AI, very important. Meeting those mobile remote workers from a browser and a mobile perspective, embedding inside of intranets and service portals. And as we look towards the future, allowing cross-platform agentic approaches, so MCP and A2A, beyond the scope of this webinar from a technology perspective, but these are protocols that allow orchestrators and agents to communicate with each other in a seamless manner. So touch points are really important in terms of meeting your employees where they are. So let's talk about the orchestrator. So the orchestrator is essentially the brains behind the operation. And it's the brains behind the operation in terms of deciding how a agentic AI solution can break down a query and create an execution plan to solve that query. Now, large language models, unlike you and I, don't read from left to right. When you and I read a sentence, we start at the beginning of the sentence, and our understanding grows as we move along the sentence. A large language model actually reads, quote unquote, the sentence entirely all at once. It tokenizes it. It breaks down it into individual little chunks and then reads the sentence simultaneously. So the orchestrator is in charge of breaking down a sentence or multiple sentences into tokens, looking for agents that it can use to solve to understand the intent behind the statement, and then find agents that can solve each individual component of that intent. And then, of course, it observes and adapts over time. So let's talk about agents. So agents in agentic AI architecture are essentially sub-orchestrators. So just like a orchestrator is orchestrating agents, agents are orchestrating skills and capabilities. Well, let's talk about what agents are. And I think it's helpful to think of agents as people. So a level one sort of entry-level persona in a space. I am an IT support agent. I can help reset a password. I can help open up a ticket. I'm a payroll specialist. I can take a look into your tax withholding. I can get you a pay stub, things along those lines. You could also think of agents as systems, integrations into enterprise systems. Now, regardless of whether we're talking about a persona or a system, this agent has a plain text description of its capabilities, similar to what I just described. So the orchestrator uses that description in order to find an agent that might be able to help them break down a complex task. Now, each agent has skills associated with it. So a skill is the smallest discrete bit of work that an agent could accomplish. Open a ticket, reset a password, things along those lines. Skills need to be small, but they also need to be deterministic in nature, meaning they need to happen the same way every time. So in our world, the way that we've solved that challenge is by defining skills using workflows. We'll talk more about that in a second. Memory is how agents access knowledge. And we have knowledge-specific agents that source documents across your organization, and agent-specific knowledge that can source structured data across integrated platforms. So let's talk about workflows. So the way that we define workflows is using our workflow studio. Now, this is a little bit different from something like a Copilot studio or some of the studio products I mentioned earlier on, because we're not building business processes. We're building discrete tasks. So things like open a ticket. Opening a ticket's not a business process. It's a skill or capability. So workflows, in our view, need to be very, very small in nature, the smallest bit of discrete work that you can deterministically enumerate. The second piece is we feel it's very important to not build all of this yourself. Each organization might have a different business process for, say, onboarding an employee, but opening a ticket will be very similar between many different organizations. So preset templates and pre-built workflows, pre-built skills inside of workflow studios can go a very, very long way to making agentic skills for pre-built integrations an out-of-the-box experience as opposed to one that needs to be built entirely from scratch. It's important to have knowledge-specific agents that can source policies and documents. Again, respecting permissions, getting back to the earlier point of ensuring that knowledge is only used in response to individual questions that affect that individual employee. And then leveraging pre-built integrations, really important here. All of these systems have legacy APIs, REST, webhook, SOAP APIs that can be used to actually perform agentic action on your behalf. So ensuring that your agentic solution has a pre-built library of integrations, really, really important to ensure that that buy scenario is very, very easy as opposed to building it all yourself. We've talked a lot about AI safety and ensuring that AI is operating with my permissions on my behalf. Extremely, extremely important when evaluating a solution. Similarly with both cloud and safety and security attestations and certifications. So this is the full view of what we see as a proper agentic AI architecture. It includes all of the pieces and stitches them together. We enter via enterprise chat apps or multiple touch points. Orchestrator breaks down a query, finds agents, which find skills, which leverage integrations and workflows in order to solve complex scenarios and complex tasks. So we're right at the bottom of the hour here. We thank you all for sticking with us. I hope you found this informative. I'll ask Prashant or Adit if you've seen any questions in the chat that we might make sense for us to answer in the last 60 or 90 seconds here.
Yeah, I think there's one which is an anonymous user who said that what's the difference between agentic AI versus autonomous agent by Lina AI? So I think agentic AI is the technology, and autonomous agent is just a brand name we've given to our agentic AI essentially. So that's that. We'd love to invite any other questions uh, that you might want to ask at this time. Um, but I already have one that came in a second ago now. So let me read it. So Dan, questions for you. So it says, what if the agent does not require a prompt to start up? So if you think about roles like AR and AP, which you'd shown, account receivable and accounts payable agents, you don't need a prompt to start them, right? So how does this work at that time?
Sure. So a promptless agent is what I was referring to at the onset as a tier 3 agent, an agent that exists in a persistent and ongoing space. I've given it a set of instructions to go out there and say, look for all of the purchase orders that require my approval and alert me every morning when they come in. So that agent doesn't need a continuous prompt, and we have built those sorts of agents. A number of our customers leverage them. I think notifications are the easiest and safest version of those persistent agents because a notification is no problem. No one's going to object to that. I think in the future, we'll see more autonomous action take place by those persistent and ongoing agents, but that's going to be part of the maturity curve, both of the technology providers such as us, as well as the enterprise users of these products as they become more both mature and comfortable with the safety perspective.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think Simon has another question, which is, other than having systems with APIs, what are the other prerequisites to be successful in implementing agentic AI?
Sure. So I think when you look at one of the big prerequisites from being successful in agentic AI, it's having your knowledge in a good spot. So I think all of us have been used to the legacy world of document repositories, of just throwing documents in, whether it's Confluence or SharePoint or OneDrive, in a document repository and letting it sit there. I think when you're asking an AI to look at a set of knowledge that grounds your business practices, it's important to have a curated approach to that. That's not to say a modern high quality AI can't sort through it. It can, and we apply recency bias and a number of ways to get through that. But I think having a curated approach to your knowledge is really, really important. Now, you can use AI to do that too, as you look at some features that we've implemented recently for smart testing to run test cases through your knowledge, a knowledge health dashboard to show the continuous health of your knowledge from a conflict and duplicated perspective, things along those lines, really important in order to leverage those solutions.
Yeah, like great that you mentioned there are a lot of products in the market right now, and I know we are building one ourselves is like the knowledge health dashboard, which do a understanding of the overlaps or any like stale content you might have in your knowledge. Just to quickly add, also Simon, as agents start doing actions on behalf of users, on behalf of the enterprise, and they start doing entire processes themselves, taking a look at your SOPs and creating like AOPs, which are agent operating procedures, AOPs, is going to get critical. So I think whenever you do digital transformation, it is extremely important to make sure that we kind of look at our existing processes and make sure that they are in line with the new technology or the new transformation that's happening. So it's going to be a good time to take a very hard look at every single process and every single point in every single process and see, okay, how can I use AI, or in this given day and age of agents, like how should I change my process to be able to adopt AI faster and better?
Thank you, Ada. That's good insight, and I think that sort of shows both the complexity as well as the opportunity of adopting these sorts of solutions. So I think that's probably a good place to wrap up here. We'll do one last quick poll. If you're interested in learning more information, feel free to go ahead and hit yes here, and we can follow up with you. We will be back. This is going to be a series of webinars that we're offering, trying to offer really back to the community here from an education perspective, and share some of the insights that Audit and myself and the rest of the team here at Lena have found as we go out and we build these products, and we talk to customers and talk to prospects. So we'll continue to share this. Thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everybody.